It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Well, today we're going to have a Friday's Fireside Chat and a Friday's Fun all rolled into one. But before we get started, I got to do a shout out to the Sharp Interactive. Every time I get close to that Sharp Interactive fireplace, I scorch my fingers. But folks, the Sharp Interactive fireplace, one strike with the bat, you got to rip, roar, and fire. Before I start today's episode, remember this: these stories could be made of imagination, some realities and some truth, but it's to prove a point. Cha-ching. I got a phone call from a principal of an elementary school. And the lady said to me, "Ray, we'd like you to come and talk to the third graders." And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's pretty interesting. What do you want me to talk about? And the principal went on to say that these third graders believe they could come into the Documentivity channel and be consultants and analysts. I'm thinking to myself, well, that's amazing. What makes them think they could do that? She said, "I think you should just come talk to these kids. They're pretty smart. They got some pretty interesting ideas that could help that industry." So I'm thinking to myself, I got to go meet these kids. I show up at the classroom. I'm sitting there in front of the class, and these kids are on their smartphones. They got iPads. There was a girl in the back of that selfie stick with a light on it. She's flinging the thing around. And there was a couple of TikTok stars in the front row, I'm sure. But these kids were completely in tune to the digital technology and the landscape of social media. It was unbelievable. They were 8 years old. And so I just asked the little girl up front. She had these really cute pigtails. I said, what makes you think that you could be a consultant or analyst in the Documentivity channel? And she said, well, Mr. Ray, we watch that industry, and most of the consultants and analysts out there, actually pretty much all of them, except for you, of course, Mr. Ray, they were big fans at the end of the day with Ray. But most of the analysts out there, all they do is fling pictures of stuff online with absolutely zero content. They're not helping anybody accomplish anything. It's just a bunch of copy and pasted nonsense. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, but what are you going to do that's different? Well, we're just going to do it better because we really understand how to use this equipment, and we'll be able to do things and get it on TikTok and stuff, and we can put irrelevant content out there really, really good. And since we're kids and we don't really understand the industry, we don't really need to, because most of the people that are in the industry don't understand the industry. So we think we could compete with them. And I'm like, well, hey, you know what? I appreciate that. I think it's exciting that you're all thinking about this, but, I'm pretty critical of these analysts and consultants that just throw a bunch of crap out there without any content, without any thoughts. And, if you guys do the same thing, I'm going to have to beat you up. And I really don't want to beat up 8-year-olds. I mean, I don't think, I just don't want to do that. I'm not that mean. What else could you do if you came in as consultants or analysts? And this little boy in the back, he jumps up. He says, "I know what we could do." I said, "Well, what's that?" "Well, my mom and dad taught me when I was 6 that if I'm confronted on the playground, to accept the challenge right there on the playground and not to run in with crocodile tears to the teacher. Just accept the challenge right there and address it." I'm thinking, well, this is a pretty smart kid. I'm thinking he probably could be a consultant or an analyst. Come in here and really shake some things up. Little girl in the front row, she raised her hand. I said, "Well, how would you come in as a consultant or analyst? What could you help these old people learn?" She said, "Well, if I came in there, I would tell these old people basically the same thing my grandparents told me, that, when I was in the 2nd grade, they said, when you get into 3rd grade, you're going to have to earn your way. You're not going to get a trophy just for showing up and sitting at your desk. You're actually going to have to go out there and be rewarded for your hard work. And when I watch these old people flinging around stuff they want and they don't even know how they want it and they're bragging about it, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I could probably help them with that." Wow, this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. There's a little boy in the back. He's jumping up. He says, "I know what I would tell him." I said, "What's that?" "I would just tell him to tell the truth regardless of how painful it is, and don't be afraid to speak up when you see things that are wrong. If you're really trying to help people, don't be afraid no matter what anybody says. You got to go out there and do it." I'm thinking to myself, okay, kids, I'm going to do everything I can to help you become analysts and consultants in the Documentivity channel, because I believe, you 8-year-olds could come in and teach these old people a whole lot of stuff. I mean, I was super impressed by these kids. It kind of reminded me of something. All the things you learned on the playground apply when you get old. All you got to do is remember them. Just some things to think about, my old friends at the Documentivity channel, because everybody watching me knows this: status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see you all on Monday.